was one thing for Trump's head of the Environmental Protection Agency to not believe in global warming. But now new reporting reveals that Scott Pruitt has dismissed evolution as an unproven theory by saying, quote, minority religions were pushing Christianity out of the public square, and advocated amending the Constitution to ban abortion, prohibit same-sex marriage, and protect the Pledge of Allegiance and the Ten Commandments, according to a newly unearthed series of Oklahoma talk radio shows from 2005. And just to be clear, one of the nation's top environmental regulators doesn't accept climate change science and thinks that evolution doesn't exist. Alrighty then, more AM Joe after the break.
In order to live, we need food, shelter, and water. But this is Key West, and life just wouldn't be complete without dessert. Key West, close to perfect, far from normal.
Beyond is a natural pet food that goes beyond assuming ingredients are safe to knowing they are. Going beyond expectations because our pets deserve it. Beyond, natural pet food.
You work hard, you play hard. The harder you push, the better we get. Introducing the all-new CopperFit Elite Sleeves, our most advanced compression sleeve yet for fast recovery and relief of muscle and joint soreness. Now with targeted zone support to concentrate continuous compression exactly where you need it. A more durable heavyweight weave combined with seamless four-way stretch technology for a perfect contoured fit and performance. And double the powerful properties of copper-infused fabric woven into the sleeve. All combined for the most flexible, durable, and baddest CopperFit compression sleeve yet.
This next generation of the sleeves is just absolutely amazing. It's just more supportive. It's more durable. I never have to adjust it. It just moves with all your movement, but yet you get the compression where you need it.
First thing I noticed, the lack of pain getting on and off our rigs.
It gives me that added support. It conforms to your body. CopperFit is fireman-proof.
CopperFit is fireman-proof.
Improve circulation and faster recovery time of sore, achy muscles and joints.
I am a true lifer with CopperFit. I haven't gone a day without wearing them. Since I've been using the CopperFit sleeves, and especially these, it's the best thing I've ever done for my knees.
When I found out you guys were doing an upgraded version, I was the first one in line. I put these on, wore them. The new technology is just amazing. Bottom line, game changer.
The all-new CopperFit Elite Compression Sleeve. Our most flexible, durable compression sleeve you will ever wear for improved circulation and guaranteed relief of muscle pain and joint soreness or your money back. Call 1-800-478-5635 or on the web at copperfitelite.com. Get your choice of the new compression knee or elbow for only $19.99. Order right now and your shipping is free.
We all want to get to that next level. Your next level is waiting for you, and it's just a CopperFit sleeve away.
Feel the power of targeted zone compression. CopperFit. Live limitless.
At Planters, we put fresh roasted flavor into every can, which has its drawbacks. Guys, know anything about this missing inventory? Wasn't me. The cheeks don't lie, chat. Irresistibly Planters.
The full story never stands behind a podium.
Do you think this is a problem for the president?
It's too wily for that, far too elusive.
Do you believe this could be a cover-up?
So you think now is the time to have this policy debate?
The full story needs to be drawn out.
Is this new big wall going to stop Mexicans from coming to the U.S.?
Tracked down and boxed in.
There appears to be a clash between police and counter-protesters.
The full story is a long, long way from the headline.
You can see that.
And that's the distance we cover.
Jared's done an outstanding job. I think he's been treated very unfairly. He's a high-quality person. He works for nothing, just so, you know, nobody ever reports that, but he gets zero. He doesn't get a salary. Jared is truly outstanding.
Hero. It was a brutal week for Donald Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner. First, he was stripped of his top secret security clearance. Then came a Washington Post report that foreign officials privately discussed ways to manipulate him, followed by a separate report by the New York Times that Kushner's family business received massive loans after White House meetings with officials from a private equity firm and Citigroup. And it didn't stop there. On Friday, NBC News reported that special counsel Robert Mueller's team is scrutinizing whether Kushner's business discussions during the transition later shaped White House policies in ways designed to either benefit or retaliate against those he spoke with. Which is all to say, Jared has some problems. Joining me now, MSNBC contributor Malcolm Nance, Natasha Bertrand of The Atlantic, Richard Painter, former chief White House ethics lawyer, and MSNBC intel analyst Naveed Jamali. Malcolm, I'm going to start with you because we've talked often about the Venetian Bank meeting that Jared Kushner had. We know he met with Anbang, the Chinese government-owned entity, insurance entity that now owns the Waldorf Astoria, among other things, but that he has talked to. Explain for those who are unclear on why it is that the needs of Jared Kushner in terms of what Natasha talked about earlier, 666 Fifth Avenue, the money, the balloon payment that's due next January, why does that pose a national security risk?
Oh, it poses a national security risk because you may be trading on government information, government intelligence. We don't know whose side you may be trading it for, whether you may be an agent of a foreign power or you may be using classified information for your own enrichment. He met with the director of VEB Bank, which is known as the Bank of Spies, run by an ex-KGB officer who may have been a non-official cover officer, and went to them for money without telling anyone. Yeah. So when you go out and you reach out to organizations like that, and then the Chinese, and then the Qataris, and then the United Arab Emirates, while supposedly an official who was working for the United States government, every one of those governments can now blackmail you.
Yeah, and Natasha, we know that Jared Kushner, among his portfolio was there were these business roundtables trying to meet with executives. We now also know from the New York Times that both a Citigroup and this Apollo investment entity met with Jared Kushner, and then bank loans were forthcoming. We know that the co-founder of Apollo Global Management ponied up $184 million. The CEO of Citigroup ponied up $325 million to Jared Kushner. So we know that he was doing these deals. Do we have a way of connecting that back to his work, that he was presenting, listen, I work for the White House, that's why you need to give me these deals?
So the strongest link that we've seen so far is that he was asking Qatar he met with the former Prime Minister of Qatar for an investment essentially in that big property, 666 Fifth Avenue. Yep. That deal ultimately fell apart. And when it did, around the time that it fell apart, Kushner was very, very instrumental in advocating for an economic blockade against Qatar. And he sided with the Saudis, he sided with the Emiratis in that dispute. And he was the one who actually pushed, and Tillerson was against the blockade. So he actually countered Tillerson. And if you're looking at this from Qatar's point of view, you say, okay, well, we backed out of this deal, so this is clearly retaliation against us for backing out of this deal. So now we see that Qatar is actually considering cooperating with Robert Mueller in this investigation, which adds a whole new dimension to the probe that we really haven't seen before. They say that they've decided not to for now, but this is just one link between policy and Jared Kushner's financial dealings, personal financial dealings, that Mueller is, of course, scrutinizing closely. As far as the Apollo and the Citigroup deals go, was there no one else that could have taken those meetings? Right. I mean, there is very, very little reason to believe that Jared Kushner would not have known that these companies were poised to invest millions and millions of dollars into his companies when he took the meeting. So the fact that these companies did invest roughly $500 million, a little over, into his companies right after he held the meetings is, of course, very, very problematic.
Yeah, absolutely. And Naveed, you have a piece up at the Daily Beast right now talking about your own experience dealing with the Russians when, in their minds, you were willing to present them intriguing and sort of valuable information in your intel post. Explain to us how they would have viewed Jared Kushner and what would they have wanted from him. Is it as dastardly as wanting the top secret information that he was getting, or could it have been lower level than that?
I think, Joy, that very simply the Russians were looking at this and they would have said, we're going to come for the possibility, for the discussion of a loan, but we're going to stay for the possibility of treason and espionage. You don't need to have a completed transaction. This can start off, as Natasha's coverage, excellent reporting has talked about, this can start off as something that potentially could be legitimate, but then it moves to something else. And the danger with someone like Jared Kushner is because he has such a vast empire of business dealings, and even if those were above board, it provides an access point. It provides a way for a foreign intelligence agency to come in and say, hey, we want to talk to you about something legitimate. We want to talk to you about business. And then they make a hard right turn. And once you're in, you're in. And that's the danger here. And on top of that, he's a $1.5 billion debt. You know, I don't think that the Russians were looking to actually pay off Jared's debt. But what you saw in that meeting before Trump took office was an approach. And the other part of that approach is that Michael Flynn was there. And I have to say, the Russians looking at this must have thought as Flynn, like, my goodness, look at what we're getting out of Michael Flynn. We have an unwitting asset who's recruiting someone else on our behalf. I mean, the whole thing just stinks.
And you know, Richard Painter, even if you could, in your own mind, put aside the potential for espionage, the potential for trading America's secrets away, just the corruption involved in some of these trades seems so blatant that it's shocking that no one flagged it inside the administration. On the Apollo Global Management piece, where you had a $184 million loan deal that was done with Kushner, shortly after Kushner companies received the loan from Apollo, the private equity firm emerged as a beneficiary of the tax cut package that the White House championed. It feels like there are so many ways in which this White House is trading money for access.
Well, yeah, it's the same old story of money for access, and bribery prosecutions are very difficult to prove. We found that out with Senator Menendez of New Jersey, and there are other examples. The Supreme Court's made it very hard to go after people for bribery, and so the politicians are doing this. And Jared Kushner's one of the worst. He doesn't even belong in the White House. There's an anti-nepotism statute, and the only reason he's there is the Justice Department came up with a convoluted opinion justifying this appointment by President Trump despite the anti-nepotism statute. He doesn't know anything about foreign policy other than negotiating bank loans for himself from Russian banks and Chinese banks. He keeps forgetting about his meetings with the Russians. And Robert Mueller's hot on his tail. I don't know why they keep him in the White House. He really ought to leave and take his wife with him, and maybe she could take her father, and we done with this foolishness.
And really quickly, to stay with you for just a moment, Richard, does the emoluments clause that we've now learned is completely weak against the President of the United States, doesn't it also apply to Jared Kushner?
Oh, it applies to all of them. Everybody who has a position of trust with the United States government. And it's not the emoluments clause that's weak, it's Congress that's weak. They want to sit around and do nothing but collect their own campaign contributions from the NRA or whoever their buddies are and focus on getting reelected rather than doing their job. That's what's weak. It's Congress that's weak.
Yeah. And at the same time, you know, Malcolm, this weakness is taking place amid a pretty stark reality, right? That we don't know what the 130 odd people who are operating with interim security clearances in the White House are being given. We don't know what top secret information Donald Trump is declassifying with his power as president and giving to them, and we don't know what they're doing with any of it.
Right. You don't know how they're operating on a day-to-day basis, what's coming across a desk, whether they're actually living up to the standards of keeping that classified information secure. Quick note about Jared Kushner. You know, I think the Mueller investigation, when they finally start focusing on him, someone's going to be tasked out to go through the type of intelligence he had access to, on what particular day. Was he getting extra reports from the Treasury Intelligence Division? Was he bringing information from the CIA about the Al-Thani family in Qatar on the day or days before he was doing these machinations and these things were occurring? You can match raw intelligence or out-analyzed intelligence to a person's behavior. That's how we catch spies.
Yeah.
And so if he had been doing any of that, if anyone in the White House has been doing any of that, they will be caught.
Yeah. And really quickly, last word to you, Naveed, if he did a little, would he be able to stop doing it if he had played ball with any of these foreign entities that wanted information from him?
Well, the damage is done. The minute you trade one thing, it doesn't matter what that context or what it's classified as or what it impacts, you've committed a crime. And once you're in, Joy, it's like being a little pregnant. There's no such thing. You're either going to spy or you're not going to spy. It's a binary question. And once he's in, and I think we're going to find out that he was trading his access to benefit and enrich himself.
Wow. Malcolm Nance and Natasha Bertrand will be back in our next hour. Thank you so much, Richard Painter and Naveed Jamali. And coming up in our next hour, Trump's NRA obedience and another White House departure. More AM Joy after the break.
More and more people are finding themselves in a